Welcome to the first outdoor filming day of 2025. Today I am getting ready to give away this knife. This is my zero tolerance 452 carbon fiber. It is one of my favorite knife designs of all time. Today we're going to talk about why I didn't end up carrying it. So there's a big problem with this knife. And to celebrate the giveaway, we are going to talk about the new version of this knife. This is the 452 carbon fiber, blue carbon fiber. In Magnacut, and we're going to talk about whether the Magnacut fixes the problem with this knife and why I didn't end up carrying it. So why I didn't end up carrying this knife, despite the fact that it fits my hand perfectly, despite the fact that it's a large, lightweight, slim design that I loved, despite the fact that it has some of the best flipper action that I have ever observed in a knife, custom or production. The reason I didn't end up carrying it is they've given the heat treatment on the blade just a little too much softness. So despite that this is S35VN, despite the fact that it's well designed, it just didn't hold an edge very long. This only did about 160, 175 cuts in my edge retention test, and that's not great for a knife that's this expensive. So I reached out to Zero Tolerance before I bought this knife, and I asked them, how hard is your Magnacut? And they told me. I'll bring that up later. What we're going to talk about first is the subtle differences between the old knife and the new knife. Not the Magnacut, that's not such a subtle difference, because there are some differences. We'll talk about those, we'll talk about my testing, and then we will talk about giving away this knife. Here we go. So one of the first differences that I noticed when I pulled out the new knife is they have changed the frame lock a little bit. So on the old knife, you can see they've relieved this area around the bottom of the frame lock. That is to prevent cracking of the titanium. On the new knife with the Magnacut, there is no relief circle there. I felt like that was a little bit odd. I'm not quite sure why they chose not to do that, but they didn't. They've also added a larger relief circle at the top of the frame lock. So right here on the old knife, there's a very small hole. On the new one, there's a larger relief cutout. Again, kind of odd that they deleted it here and put a bigger one here, but they did. The old knife has this kind of machined satin finish to the blade, which I always thought was pretty cool looking. The new knife is stonewashed. So you can see slight difference on the finish there. I don't know that I prefer one over the other that much, but it is a difference. Obviously, the new knife has this carbon fiber that has a blue tint to it. It's a subtle blue. It's not a big, bold, showy blue by any means. But that's in fitting with Zero Tolerance's design philosophy of kind of understated, overbuilt, sturdy, but good-looking, kind of classy, understated knives. They've also ramped the frame lock a bit more. So if you zoom in on the frame lock, this is the new knife. This is the old one. You can see on the edge of the frame, the edge of the lock face right there on the blade, they've given the new one a bit more of a ramp off to one side so that it slides up onto the locking bar a little easier. I didn't think that was a problem with the old knife, but it's nice to see them updating the new one a little bit that way. The only other difference that I've spotted, and I have no idea why this is even the case, is the Magnacut blade. You can see has two little notches carved right into it right here, and the S35VN version does not. I can only suspect that this is probably done during the manufacturing process so that they don't mix up the Magnacut and the S35VN blades. I suspect it's a way of marking the blades so they know which is which. I don't know that for certain, but it's there. So now on to the big question. Did they fix the heat treatment? So when I reached out to Zero Tolerance, I didn't tell them about my problems with the old knife. I simply just said, hey, I am thinking about springing on one of these new knives. Can you tell me how hard your Magnacut is? And they got back to me immediately. Zero Tolerance is known for their great customer service. They said, our knives are falling in a range from 61 to 64. Most of the knives we are finishing off are bang on 63 Rockwell for the hardness on the blades. That is perfect for Magnacut, and having tested it, I can say that that is absolutely right where these are. They perform like the best Magnacut I've ever tested. They have finally fixed the biggest problem for why I didn't like this knife. 450 cuts in my edge retention test, and this knife was still cutting pretty well. I'm going to show you a footage here of me cutting a free hanging nylon rope. It took a couple cuts to get through the rope, but this is after my edge retention testing. So this knife is still pretty stinking sharp, even after all that cutting. I did not resharpen it for this test. Excellent job, Zero Tolerance. You have succeeded in updating this knife. And I would say that because of the modest upgrade in price, it's worth going for the Magnacut version. So I've criticized a lot of companies for this. When they upgrade from S35VN to Magnacut, a lot of companies are jumping the price up of their knives by $100 or so. And that is excessive to me. Yes, Magnacut is better, but it's not that much better. And more importantly, for the end user, it's not actually that much more expensive. So if you go on knife maker supply companies and you compare S35VN steel to Magnacut steel when you're buying it as a knife maker, same size piece is almost identical in price. Maybe $5 to $10 more depending on where you buy it and depending on the thickness. Now, Magnacut is harder to heat treat. There's a little bit more process that goes involved, so there is a valid reason for a bit of an upcharge, but not a $100 upcharge if you're mass producing knives and you already have heat treatment facilities in place. If you're a custom knife maker, it's a little different. Magnacut requires some pretty specific stuff. So their modest upcharge of about 30 bucks for the Magnacut version, $28 roughly right now from what I'm seeing online most places, is just about right. They're not overcharging for this. And if you look at the materials and the workmanship of Zero Tolerance, I've always been impressed that they're able to make knives like this in the United States, do such a good job with it in a place where, you know, it's not cheap to make stuff in Oregon, and they produce great stuff and their prices are not outrageous. Benchmade produces their knives in the same city. Well, I mean, it's Tualatin versus, you know, where Benchmade is. Oregonians would say that that's not the same city, but they're both in Portland. They're both like suburbs of Portland, okay? So they're only 16 miles apart. So it's not like Benchmade's costs are a whole lot higher, but their knives are of less quality and more expensive. So well done, Zero Tolerance. Thank you very much for fixing this knife. Like I said, I'm giving away the old version and I am going to be keeping the new one. This is going in my list of favorite knives again. Thank you very much. Now, the giveaway. Watch soon. I am going to give this away. I'm probably going to film it today and then probably put it up later next week of giving away this knife. I promised I would do that when I got to 1,500 subscribers. One of you lucky subscribers is going to be getting this knife and it is going to have a new home. Thank you all very much for being a part of my channel, for subscribing and for helping me build to where I am now. Stay subscribed and stay looking out for fun new stuff in the future.